Hello everyone, this is Elijah David, minister of the 12th Hour Apostolic Sabbatarian Congregation Mount Zion, the 12th Hour in Liberty Hill, Texas. Today is August 17, 2013, or it is the 11th day of Elul 2017. We're going to start our second service on this Sabbath day with a song, another song that I've written entitled, "And the Earth Made New, Where the Skies Were Blue." Hello everyone, my name is Elijah David, minister of the 12th Hour Apostolic Sabbatarian Congregation Mount Zion at the 12th Hour in Liberty Hill, Texas. Today is August 17, 2013, or it is the 11th day of Elul 2017. We're going to start our second service on this Sabbath day with another song that I have written entitled, "And the Earth Made New, Where the Skies Were Blue." And the earth made new when the skies are blue, and the clouds are silver lined, where people speak when spoken to, that the law does not define. What they do, or what they say, or how they comb their hair, but how they treat each other, I'll be elected for you there. And the earth made new when the skies are blue. Skies are blue, I can't hardly wait to enter in and take my precious traffic golden gate. But they tell me that it is a land where the freedom bells swing, where everything is a surely light, causes the heart to sing. And the earth makes new when the skies are blue. Have the holy city on the top of Zion's hill, and the only ones that enter in are the ones that do His will. And the earth made new where the skies are blue, you can rest assured that all is well on Zion's hill for those who endure. So come on, brother, and take a hold. There's no time for delay, for the signs are in the heavens pointing to the judgment day. For the nation will be gathered on every side, for the answering of their misdeeds caused by the foolish pride. And then there'll be rejoicing for the saints on the other side. And the earth made new where the skies are blue. Okay. Hello everyone. Once again, this is Elijah David. We're going to have a prayer thought now from the Alan DeLong. We're at his place on the lake. And so Alan's going to give us a prayer thought at this time.
Prayer thought is Habakkuk chapter 2. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And Yahweh answered me and said, Write the vision, and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Behold, a soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man. He that keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desirous hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Shall not these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increases that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Shall they not rise up suddenly, that shall bite thee, and awake, that shall vex thee? Thou shalt be for booties unto them. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee. Because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, or of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Thou hast consulted shame to thy people by cutting off many people, and hast sinned against thy soul. For the stone shall cry out of the wall, and the beam of the timber shall answer it. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and establisheth a city by iniquity. Behold, is it not of the Yahweh of hosts that the people shall labor in the very fire, and the people shall weary themselves for very vanity? For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Yahweh, as the waters cover the sea. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that puttest thy bottle to him, and makest him drunken, also that thou mayest look on their nakedness. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Yahweh's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. For the violence of Lebanon shall cover thee, and the spoil of beasts which made them afraid, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. What profiteth the graven image that the maker thereof hath graven it, or the molten image and a teacher of lies, that the maker of his work trusteth therein to make dumb idols? Woe unto him that saith to the wood, Awake to the dumb stone, arise, it shall teach. Behold, it is laid over with gold and silver. There is no breath at all in the midst of it. But the Yahweh is in his holy temple, let all the earth keep silence before him.
Hello again, once again, this is Elijah David now. We're going to continue on our series that we started, our study, The Year of His Redeemed by the Beach of Harlem. Text address made the 31st, 1947. But we have some other points that we need to introduce here once again. New points about the David. For everyone that is redeemed, in the year of his redeemed, will be practicing the daily right and faithfully. And he will need to, because of what I'm fixing to read you, has to do with the morning and the evening services, the daily, the third hour in the morning and the 9th hour in the afternoon, that was performed by Moses and children of Israel with the daily ritual services of the offering every morning, a lamb, and not without incense. Incense had to be burning continually on the altar, 24 hours a day. And so when the time comes for the offering of the lamb in the morning, at the third hour, that incense had to be burning before you could even offer that lamb. Okay? Now, when you offer it at the sacred hour, and the high priest performed the ritual of sprinkling the blood upon the horns of the altar at that time. And now here you have the blood sprinkled, the incense going up from off the altar, and that incense represents the ascending of the prayers that were offered over that offering. Okay, now, it's important that we understand this, and I'm going to read to you what Ellen G. White said about this here, restoring the daily, right after 1844. And it was recorded in the Seventh-day Adventist Bible Dictionary that I'm reading from here, compiled by the Seventh-day Adventists, Okay? They can follow this in volume 8 of page 242. It's a dictionary, so every word is in alphabetical order, so when you go to the D, you'll find daily cometh in it. And on page 242, she says, Hebrew, cometh, T-A-M-I-D, continually, or regularly. So now, whenever you read the word continually or regularly, it's the same thing as the Hebrew word cometh. Cometh occurs 104 times in the Old Testament, both as an adjective, Exodus 9:42, and as an adverb, chapters 27:20. 6 times, Numbers 4:16, and Daniel 8:11, and 13, and 11:31 of Daniel, and Daniel 12:11. Now, in that 6 times it occurs, it actually says daily. Okay? But in all those other 98 times, it says continual or regularly, or you can even say everlasting. Okay. It is translated daily in the KJV 6 times, but usually continual or perpetual. Perpetual is another word used for daily. Now, daily simply means that when the sanctuary was put into operation, there were daily services to be performed by the priest every day. And that's what cometh represents. Continual offerings and the operation of the sanctuary. But when you come to the word daily, it talks about the offering of burnt offerings at the sacred hour of the day. And that would be the 3rd hour and the 9th hour. So now it says, but usually continual or perpetual when used adjectively. So when you use the word daily adjectively, you use the word continual or perpetual, okay, or regularly, or you use the word everlasting. That would be an adjective, okay, describing the word daily. Okay? Perpetually, always, or ever. Always is another adjective. Ever is another, or evermore. When you use the word always, ever, and evermore when you're using it adverbally. Now, when you say adverbally, you're talking about an adverb means past tense. But when you're using it in the present tense, you use the verb. Like today we use the present tense verb is, but the present tense adverb would be was. Okay? So it says for the rendering of the word daily is a modified translation based on the context. For the Hebrew expression most often translated daily is yom, biyom. That is Y-O-M, B-E-Y-O-M, which means literally day by day. Cometh is used in connection with the tabernacle and temple service about 50 times. It's only used 50 times out of the 104 times that it's found in the Old Testament. It's only used 50 times when it's used in relation to the services of the tabernacle itself. of the daily, the tamid is used in connection with the tabernacle service and temple service about 50 times of the daily, morning, and evening burnt offering. So now, out of the 104 times it's in the Old Testament, it is used 50 times pertaining to the daily, the morning, and the evening burnt offering at that specific time. That's found in Exodus 29:38, 42. Of the candlestick or lamp, chapters 27, 20. That would be of Exodus. Of the showbread, chapter 25, verse 30. That would be Exodus. Of the incense, chapter 30, verse 8. Of the fire upon the altar, it would be found in Leviticus 6:13. Of the fire and cloud that hovered over the sanctuary, you find it in Numbers 9:16. Of the musical service, you find it in 1 Chronicles 16:6 and 37, etc. So all these different things that are part of the tabernacle service on a daily basis. So that's what the daily overall means. Whatever is performed every day is called part of the daily services, or continual or perpetual. So when you perform the offering at the third and the ninth hour, then you call it day by day, daily. All right. So now it says, in all instances, tamid denotes aspects of the tabernacle or temple service that were in the operation continually, regularly, or daily, in the contradistinction unto the special ritual performed only at specific seasons, such as the Passover, or the Day of the Atonement, or for the individuals. Thus the 7 lamps were never extinguished all at once. For the fire on the altar of the burnt offering was never permitted to go out, for the bread of the presence was always upon its table. A lamb was offered every morning and every evening, at the 3rd hour and the 9th hour, and incense burned upon the altar of the incense simultaneously. See the reference above, the daily, or continual. The service represented Elohim's continuing beneficent provision for man. So when you practice the daily every day on a daily basis, according to the laws of the tabernacle, these are the laws of the sanctuary, folks, then you will know that Yahweh's presence and His Son's presence is right there with that offering. And especially when you do it at the appointed time. Okay? Peter knew how important it was to go up at the correct time, because he had the power to heal the blind man at the gate. At the gate. The man that had been a paraplegic for 38 years laying by the pools of Bethesda knew that in order for him to be healed, he'd have to get in those waters when they became troubled. And they only became troubled at the 3rd hour and the 9th hour of the day. So he could just go in and just roll over in that pool anytime he wanted to and get healed. He had to wait for the moving of the waters. And he knew that it was at the sacred hours, the designated the 3rd hour and the 9th hour of the day. And every time, though, that happened, nobody was there to put him down in the water, because there's always somebody there to step ahead of him. Because people knew when time to get into the waters, and so there was a lot of sick people that came there. And that poor man lay there for 38 years. And Yahshua came along one day and healed him right there where he lay. So that Yahshua was that power in those healing waters. It was that power portrayed through him. Alright? So now it says, for the daily, are the continuous service represented Elohim's continuing beneficent provision for the man and pointed forward symbolically unto the Yahshua's ministry. Okay, so we have Yahshua's ministry being restored today in the form of the ordained system of true worship with a creation calendar, giving us a designated correct time for the right days to worship on as far as special feast days. And then now we have your clock on the wall. It shows exactly when the third hour comes and the ninth hour comes. And so we're without excuse because we have entered into the anticipated era of Yahshua's ministry in the heavenly sanctuary today on behalf of man. Okay. So it says now, the reason why it points symbolically to Yahshua's ministry, Yahshua, whoever liveth, he ever liveth to make intercession for us. So folks, if you want an answer to all your prayers, then understand and perfect the ordained system of the true worship every day. And you will find out that your life will straighten out much smoother. Everything will all of a sudden come into place. Everything will fall into place in your life. Okay, now. In Daniel, the term daily occurs 5 times. There's a translation of Tamid. Okay. Tamid is a Hebrew word, once again, for continually or regularly. And you can find it in Daniel chapter 8, verse 11 to 13, and Daniel 11:31, and Daniel 12:11. Okay. The RSV calls it the continual burnt offering, as it is associated with the sanctuary. In Daniel chapter 8, 11 to 14, the power symbolized by the little horn, that's on that beast of the papacy, desolates the sanctuary and halts its regular ritual services. Well, we know that happened in the Dark Ages, when the papacy started the 1260-year prophecy of the Dark Ages, being in charge of church and state, ruling over all nations and all people, and persecuting all those who would not accept to be converted to them, even killing them and killing many martyrs for the 1260 years that they were allowed to operate. They killed over 100 billion saints, a lot of people, folks. Okay, so now it says that little horn, the power symbolized by the little horn, desolates the sanctuary and halts its regular ritual services. So those regular ritual services is going on clear up to 538 AD. Advent says, no, that all stopped at the cross. No. The prophecy says, no, it didn't. That it never stops until the last sinner has been banished from this earth and the last saint has been saved in the kingdom. But after a period of 2,300 days, or 2,300 years, the sanctuary is to be cleansed. Okay. Now, after the 2,300 days, sometime after 1844, the sanctuary is to be cleansed. So we know that to have this closest they can get to the correct date for the cleansing was in October 22nd, 1844. After the 23rd-day prophecy made its fulfillment, they had a cleansing of the sanctuary in heaven. Now, Yahshua entered into the most holy place on the Day of Atonement. Sister White said that the 22nd day of October, 1844 was considered the 10th day of the 7th month of the law of Moses, pointed out by the law of Moses. So, then, the Adventists understood why William Miller met his great disappointment of Yahshua not coming to the earth and cleansing the earth by burning it up with fire and taking the waiting saints to heaven. He taught that as a cleansing of the sanctuary of Daniel 8:14. So Shabbat went back and studied, and the little Advent band with her went back and studied and found out what caused the great disappointment. That William Miller misinterpreted Daniel 8:14 and didn't interpret it according to the way Moses interpreted it. So she said we went and found that the earth was not the sanctuary, but that there was a place, a sanctuary, and it had services attached to it here on earth. And she said it had a place and services. And she said that sanctuary is to be restored back to its right glory. But she didn't do it because she didn't have a light on how to do it or anything. So she just said it had to be restored sometime after the 1844. So it says, but after a period of 23 days, the sanctuary is defamed or restored unto its rightful state, she said. In chapters Daniel 11:31, the additional information is given that the abomination, now it says the additional information is given that the abomination that maketh desolate is substituted for the daily. Uh-oh. So the Catholic Church trampled the sanctuary underfoot. They cast the sanctuary down. They trampled the Sabbath underfoot. They didn't destroy it, they just trampled it underfoot. And they set up the Catholic counterfeit festivities in the place of the ritual services of the sanctuary. They established it daily, a third hour of the day and the ninth hour. They established offerings and so forth. We call them Catholic relics that they invented. Okay, so now, but they're saying here that for the additional information is given that the abomination that maketh desolate is substituted for the day, since the daily designates the divinely ordained system of the true worship. The power that removes it stands in opposition unto Elohim, and the abomination that maketh desolate represents a counterfeit system of worship. Oh, folks, now pay close attention. The Catholic Church demonstrated literally how that was done. They took the regular ritual services of the tabernacle of the Jewish people. They set it aside, pushed it out of the way, and brought forth their version of it. But they had their priest, they got their priest in place, just like the Pharisees had their priest. Matter of fact, the Catholic Church copied after the order of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They set up their Catholic government just the way the Pharisees and the Sadducees had set theirs up. The Pharisees added 613 new additional statutes and precepts to the Torah, the law of Moses. And the Catholic Church added many hundreds of additional precepts, just like the Pharisees did, to the law of Moses. Okay. So now it says that the additional information is given that the abomination that maketh desolate is substituted for the daily. All right, now let's turn to Matthew 24:15. Let's read that now. Matthew's also talking about an abomination that maketh desolate, that's standing in the most holy place. And let's see what Matthew meant by that. In Matthew 24:15, he says, when you therefore shall see the abomination of the desolation spoken of by the Daniel, the prophet, standing in the holy place, whosoever reads let him understand. Now this abomination maketh desolate It's after the 23, after the Dark Age, though, after the Catholic Church are finished. This is another abomination of desolation. And who is this one that is representing this abomination of desolation? Well, all one has to do is go turn to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and read verses 1 through 3 and find out who it is. It says, Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Savior Yahshua Messiah, and by our getting together unto him, that ye be not soon shaken in mind or be troubled, neither by the Spirit, nor by the word, nor by the letter, as from us, as that the day of Yahshua is at hand. We're talking about the day today of Yahshua is at hand. 2002, it was very much at hand because Yahshua was on the scene at the Passover 2002 at Gilead Center in the context. And he was dealing with his steward of the vineyard that he had appointed over, charged over his goods. That was Brother Johnson, the angel of the candlestick. And Yahshua is one that appointed Brother Johnson as the angel of that candlestick of letters here in 1970. Now watch this. Now it says in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3, Let no man deceive you by any means. For that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Now your key here that Paul was addressing the Thessalonians, he was telling them the same thing that Matthew was telling the disciples. Let no man deceive you by any means. What does it mean? Let no man deceive you. The only one that could deceive the saints, possibly deceive the saints, would have to be a prophet in charge of the candlestick of Israel. That's in charge of the daily ritual services of the sanctuary. That would be the only man that could possibly deceive, if possible, the very elect. So Paul is an elected official, and he knows it. And he knows all those that are converted and joins the kingdom are elected. So this is who he addresses. He says, let no man deceive. Well, no common sinner is going to come and deceive the saints. It has to be somebody in a very high exalted position in the church. It would have to be the one in charge of the candlestick that gets daily first-hand inspirational messages from heaven to deliver unto the saints, waiting for those messages to come from the prophet. That's what we did down in Clinton. We waited every week for that special hour when Brother Johnson would come and give us a new message from heaven. We patiently waited week after week. We used to get fed too on our holy days, but now our prophet, he grew old and weary and tired, wore out, and he reduced it to one. But nevertheless, we waited and we were there anxiously to receive the latest message from heaven coming to our prophet. This is what it's talking about now. So now, in this case, where it says in Matthew 24:15, I'll get back to Matthew again. It says that verse 14, and this gospel, the preaching of the plan of salvation through the blood of the Yahshua, of the everlasting covenant, of the kingdom, shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations. And then shall the end come. That's the end of the 12th hour. It comes right here at 1. When the clock strikes 1. Not at the beginning of the 12th hour, but the end of the 12th hour. And when you therefore shall see the abomination of the desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, you shall reasonably understand. Well, whenever I saw that the man of sin had been revealed in the form of Brother Johnson in 2002 at Trample, Texas, I immediately then understood that he had restored the sanctuary in 1970. He even published in a tract and sent to the evidence and said this, you have to restore all of these statutes and judgments of the sanctuary, along with the holy days, the feast days to go over the 7-day Sabbath. You've got to call it, and it's called the ordained system of true worship, and you've got to perform your vows every day to David. And he specifically pointed out to David at the 3rd hour and the 9th hour. He said this constitutes and is the instrument that will purify the church by the practicing of this here sanctuary restored fully. And then to hear him, when I give him that message of July the 14th, 2002, and says, restore the David. Well, he restored it in 1970. He rescinded it by 1983. He was more or less coerced by some people that wanted to join him, become members of Gilead Synod, only if he restored the David. So he reluctantly restored the David in 1983, put it back in operation. And then he grew weary of trying to get everybody to perform their vows. So within about 5 years, he completely rescinded it again. And then when I was given a message from heaven in 2002, it told him to restore the David, to get rid of the filthy garment. He said, well, next year our David will get into the land. It's too inconvenient right now for us here. Well, next year that when we get into the land. The Harder says, we can't restore the feast days right now. He said, it's too inconvenient. We'll next do it when we get into the land. We'll restore the feast days. Brother Johnson says, well, no, we'll restore the feast days now because I have light on it in 1970. He restored the feast days, he restored the day, he restored the sacred name, he restored the forgiveness article of Matthew 18, he restored the health reform, he restored all the feast days and connected up with the 7-day Sabbath, and taught Leviticus 23 as the whole plan of salvation with its laws intact there. Published it as a creation calendar, perfected it over the next 7 years, and then when the Adventist church had come in and become sanctified and purified by and accepted that truth, he grew weary of well-doing and he slacked off. And finally he just quit performing the daily, quit even talking about it. Then he got back on in 83 and then he got back off and then he was told by heaven one last time to get back on. I was going ahead and take rid of the filthy garments. He refused to do it. Instead, he said I was telling a lie when I said I got that message from heaven. That he didn't have to do it after all. He wrote a letter excommunicating me as an old lying prophet. And that I was there to bring the church down to heaven. And to deceive everybody by telling them that they had to restore all of these holy days, all these ritual services, especially the David. It angered him because he had trampled all that underfoot. So Yahweh told me that he was that man of sin that had to first be discouraged of you and fall away. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. Now folks, this is a message that unfolded to me yesterday. And I didn't know when it would be a timely fashion to unveil this, but it seems the opportunity has presented itself at this time. And this is where we're at today. So the abomination that maketh desolate a second time showed up at Gilead Synod Penetration. And rightfully so, because it's time to bring the whole Advent movement to a close. That had been underfoot for 158 years. Fulfilling prophecies after prophecies. And fulfilling a very key prophecy by closing out the judgment for the dead, 2002. By the changing of the guard and starting the judgment of the living, 2012, with a new order, a new leadership, with that fifth group of laborers pointed out in Matthew 20, verse 6, called at the 11th hour. which happens to be the house of David. John 12,000 I represent now are the servants, the last servants that answered that last call to work in the vineyard. And what is their work? Their work is to effect the beginning of the judgment for the living. And when we say it starts the judgment of the living, it literally started judgment at the house of Yahweh in Communication 2002 at the atonement. It literally started the judgment and separated that congregation. The first congregation of Israel would be separated from the judgment of the living and would get it as sin. So the judgment is underfoot, folks. And that's the investigative judgment of Ezekiel 9. It's only the investigative judgment. You got to investigate all the records of those that's going to be judged, whether they're going to have eternal life or eternal hellfire and damnation. They've got to be judged one way or the other. You got to have an investigative work. Then after that, you have a judicial work that gives a judgment on to be either judged for eternal life or judged the other way. And then when that's over with, then you have the executive judgment that carries out the executive or the punishment phase of the judgment. You have three phases of the judgment: investigative, judicial, and executive. First you got to investigate the record. Then you got to pass judgment on them at the Day of Atonement. And then after that, you got to execute judgment upon those that didn't make it. And you also execute judgment upon those that made it by granting them eternal life. That's the judgment you give them. Okay? So now, to know it all begin to be done. So now we are just got about 15 good minutes left in our regular service. Okay, I guess I need to drink some water.
Okay, go.
Okay. Year of His Redeemer, V.P. Holliper on page, about number 3. It says 13 in here, but it's actually number 3. Time of Reading, Volume 1, number 43, we'll read from. So we're going to do a little review. Isaiah 63, verse 3 to 5. I have trodden the winepress alone. Alright. Why does Yahshua have to put his servant in charge of his goods and then end up treading the winepress alone? And of the people, there was none with me. So he says, of the people that I appointed 10 servants over my goods. And I went to a far country to receive a kingdom and come back. And I come back and reckon with the last figure that was in charge of my goods. And he said, lo and behold, the last one that was in charge, there was no help to me. I couldn't depend on him to help me to bring this thing to a close. For I will tread them in mine anger and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stand all my raiment, for the day of the vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. But actually, the year of his redeemed came at the Passover 2002. For the house of Esau. Because the house of Esau was the one that was in operation at that time. They're the one that came under the first judgment, the judgment of Israel. So the year of his redeemed is come, meaning the year to start sitting up to bring forth 144,000. That year came in 2002. To set in motion the action that was to bring forth 144,000. So when we talk about the year of my redeemed, it's talking about redeemed is a past tense adverb, meaning that he had already been marked and sealed or preordained to be the first fruits harvest when he struck the Jubilee. And I looked, and there was none to help, and I wondered that there was none to uphold. Therefore mine own arm, the house of David, the wave sheep offering, brought salvation unto me, and my fury it upheld me. For the statements, I have trodden the winepress alone. I looked, and there was none to help, and I wondered that there was none to uphold. All in the past tense shows that the Savior's zeal and determination to save his misled people at his first advent, though there was no one with him to help, that is, all the priests and the religious leaders, today would translate into the general conference of his day, of our day, was the general conference, and that day was the Sanhedrin, were against him instead of helping him in his work. But the statements, for I will tread them in my anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of the vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redemption is come. Okay, so the year of his redemption came, and when Yahshua turned 30 years old and started his ministry. 27 AD, that was the year of the redeemed for his first advent. Now his second advent is going to have repeated that year of the redeemed. This time is to get to 144,000. And folks, it's later than we think. That year has already come. Been ongoing for 10 years. And I looked, and there was none to help, and I wondered if there was none to uphold. Therefore my own arm brought salvation unto me. My own arm, which is the house of David, my beloved, restored the sanctuary service and put the ordained system of true worship into operation, showing that at the appointed time every day that there's a blood offering made. That's my blood that's offered for those who come by faith to the sanctuary and offer it at the appointed time. Therefore mine own arm brought salvation to me. Okay. And my fury it upheld me, all in the future tense. Shows the present church's condition not only equally as bad as at his first coming, but even much worse. How true that the history repeats. As the day of the vengeance approaches, those who are supposed to uphold and help in the work of the redemption, the ministers and the religious leaders, the antitypical Sanhedrin of today, translates into the General Conference organization, leadership for the Adventist Church, are seen to be hindering, standing in his way of the reaching the people. Thus they incur his displeasure, and necessarily he girds himself to free his people from the hands of the unfaithful shepherds. Today that would be the unfaithful Adventist ministries. They cause him to stain his garments with their blood as he tramples them in his fury. Ezekiel 9. Isaiah 63:6. And I will tread down the people in mine anger, and make them drunk in my fury, and I will bring down their strength unto the earth. For the Yahshua's brief explanation of the situation is amplified by the prophet Ezekiel. Says he cried also in mine ears with a loud voice, saying, cause them that had charge over the sea to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lieth toward the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand, and one man among them was clothed with the linen, with a writer's inkhorn by his side. And they went in and stood beside the brazen altar, and the glory of the Elohim of the Israel, the glory of the Yahshua of the Israel, was gone up from the cherub whereupon he was to the threshold of the house. And he called unto the man clothed with the linen, that was Yahshua, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And the Yahweh said unto him, the Father, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that began the midst thereof. Alright. And unto the others he said in mine hearing, go ye after him through the city, and smite, let not your eye spare, neither have ye pity, slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children, and women that come not near any man upon whom is a mark, and begin my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house, Ezekiel 9:1-6. For the Ezekiel's prophecy plainly reveals that this cleansing work takes place in the church in the Jerusalem. In the time to separate the unfaithful from among the faithful, the time to destroy the tares, Matthew 13:30. To cast out the bad fish, Matthew 13:47-49. To purify the church, Testimony, Volume 5, page 80. To purify the ministry, Malachi 3:1-3. To cleanse the sanctuary, Daniel 8:14. As a judgment work for the living. For the spirit of prophecy in our day has this to say, but the days of the purification of the church are hastening on apace. Elohim will have a people pure and true. In the mighty sifting soon to take place, we shall be better able to measure the strength of Israel. For the signs reveal that the time is near when the Yahshua will manifest that his hand is in his hand. So he took that fan in his hand at 2030. He manifested that. That fan has been in his hand now for 10 years, folks. And he will thoroughly purge his store. Every seed of the church, the Yahshua sanctuary, was the first to feel the stroke of the wrath of the Elohim. For the ancient men, those unto whom Elohim had given great light, and today, the one that was given the greatest light since 1844 was Brother Johnson. No prophet had received any greater light than he. His light was 1,000 times greater than Ellen G. White and B.T. Hart. And Ellen G. White and B.T. Hart published the former letter ring of truth. And yet Brother Johnson had 1,000 times more light on the sanctuary than they ever thought about having. And who had stood as the guardians of the spiritual interests of the people had betrayed their trust. And then he ends up trampling all this wonderful reservoir of truth. All heaven opened its windows and poured it upon the house of Esau, because he had the birthright. He said, okay, here it is, Esau. I'm going to just give you the whole thing. And if you publish all this that I've given you and teach it, it'll perfect you, bring you to purification, and you'll go on to the end of time. We know that didn't happen, but let's continue. But they had taken the position that we need not look for the miracles and the marked manifestations of Elohim's power as in the former days. Brother Johnson sure didn't look for it, because he said, I can do this little job all by myself. I don't need nobody but my wife and my son to help me and their family. All I need is the Johnson family. That's all I need to do this little job all by ourselves. Times have changed. These words strengthen their unbelief. And they say, Yahshua will not do good, neither will he do evil. Why, he approves of the way I'm handling his business. He is too merciful to visit his people, and that's us, in judgment, because he's given judgment to us to begin with. For why would he visit us in judgment when he's bequeathed judgment unto us to perform upon our brethren, to bring 144,000, and then upon the great multitude? But we have the judgment in our hands. Why would he visit us in judgment? Just because he disapproves a little bit of the way that we're not doing it quite like he wants it done? No, he wouldn't do that. Yes, he did. For thus peace and safety is a cry from men who will never again lift up their voice like a trumpet to show Elohim's people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sin. The house of Jacob they had been sure. These dumb dogs that would not bark are the ones who feel the just vengeance of an offended Elohim. Men, maidens, and little children all perish together. Testimony volume 5, page 80 to 11. And the apostle Peter adds, for the time has come that judgment must first begin at the house of Elohim, and if first begin at us, what shall the end be of them that obey not the gospel of the Elohim? And if the righteous scarcely be saved, where shall the unrighteous and the sinner appear? 1 Peter 4:17. Since Elohim's people of today are not in the land of the Edom, that's in the country of Zidon, right across the border from Israel, south of the Palestine, that are scattered throughout the earth. And since the Yahshua is to slay their enemies in order to free them, so Yahshua is going to have to come on the scene, get his battle axe together that's prophesied by Jeremiah 51, 18, and 19, and 20, and that's the 144,000. And then he's going to slay them with them, their enemies, in order to free them. For the truth is obvious. These are antitypical Edom and Bozrah haughtage. He was called Edom, and the name Bozrah means sheepfold. So the sheepfold of antitypical Esau was Gilead's son. I was part of that sheepfold of Bozrah, pointed out here in Isaiah 63. I was in that field of Bozrah. I was in that sheepfold. When Yahshua came and trod the winepress alone and dyed his garments in blood at Bozrah, I was there when he did that. He delivered me because I signed a contract of abomination down there, my wife also, and Alan DeLong, the man that wears his face today. And he's still with us today. He's still with us because Yahshua tried the winepress and delivered us because we were signing a contract of abomination, and that's the only thing that saved us. Finally then, the Edomites of Isaiah 63:1 are those who in our day have sold their birthright. Ho, ho, ho. And Bruce Johnson had that position by virtue of the birthright of the firstborn. As the head of the house of Edom, the Esauites. And who at the same time are persecuted, as did Esau persecute Jacob, those who have bought it, so to speak. Thus it is that as Elohim's people had to be delivered from the Sanhedrin, that's the general conference of that day, same thing as the general conference today, in the Yahshua's day, they must now be delivered from the general conference of the Seventh-day Adventists, the antitypical Edomite brethren, in order to be led into all the truth and into their father's land. Brother Johnson represents the last leader of the Sanhedrin order that persecuted the Jacobites. And his persecution ended in 2002 when Yahshua sent me the message to bring him to judgment. For the words, the year of my Redeemer is come, and the day of the vengeance is in mine heart, clearly says that the Yahshua's strange work in Edom and Bozrah, the sheepfold, in the day of the vengeance, and a sign of the antitypical Israel the church purified, returning unto the homeland. Well, folks, we're at the end of our sermon for this day. We will continue this on in our next sermon. We're just going to close now to the song that I've written entitled, Let the Heavenly Light Shine Through. Let's see if we can get it all beamed up here. Well, you wouldn't not have known about a wonderful joy if he hadn't created you. And you wouldn't not have known about a vast creation and all that he can do. So draw near unto y'all, remember to pray, let the heavenly light shine through. Y'all, His mercy when it comes again, we'll have a heavenly home for you. Let the heavenly light shine through. Let the heavenly light shine through. And y'all, His mercy when it comes again, we'll have a heavenly home for you. There would not have been a creation of earth if God hadn't have come down. He spoke the word, all creation heard, and the world started standing around. Then He spoke the word, and the light appeared. He divided it from the night. And He all saw that His work was good, created by His mind. Let the heavenly light shine through. Let the heavenly light shine through. And y'all, when it mercy when it comes, and it will have a heavenly home for you. Well, you come upon a mountain and you look around, there's a green valley below. There's a moon up above, there's a shining with love, there's a peaceful river that flows. There's the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and all the heaven can spare.